Welcome to Daniel's Inferno. My name is Daniel. I'm glad to be back. I hope you're all doing well and I hope you're all keeping safe. Before we get started, if you have a moment, please like, subscribe, share, and join the conversation below. I'd love to hear your opinion. So, today we are going to be talking about different responses in Canada to the current epidemic we are facing. And just so my video doesn't get taken down or messed with by YouTube's algorithm, I'm going to just be calling it an epidemic or a flu from now on, but I think we all know what I'm referring to. So, in Ontario, the province that I live, our premier is preparing an anti-price gouging law. This is in response to a specific incident that, in my opinion, is disgusting. So, Ontario Premier says his cabinet is preparing an order to fight price gouging during the epidemic. Details of the order were not immediately available, but Ford said anyone price gouging after the order goes through will be, quote, done. He specifically mentioned Pusarides, a specialty food store that had been charging $30 for Lysol wipes. $30 for Lysol wipes. Ford says it's absolutely disgusting that the company would take advantage of people. Are you filming with me, little lady? The store is apologizing, saying it was a mistake and that anyone who bought those wipes can get a full refund. Ontario is reporting 170 new cases, bringing the total to 858. That's the largest single day spike of cases in my province so far. At least 12 of the cases were hospitalized, including 2 people in their 20s. The total number of cases includes 13 people who have passed away and 8 cases that have fully resolved. No information is available for dozens of cases. Of the cases with known details, more are listed as becoming infected through close contact with another case than through recent travel. So that tells us and tells anyone with a brain that people are not practicing social distancing properly. That is one of the main things I'm going to say right now. You need to be practicing safe practices during what is going on. Be prepared, do not be panicked. And what is happening is people are just totally ignoring what's going on. I was watching Sargon and he had a video and he showed something that someone posted on social media, and it was, anywhere between 15 to 50 people just sunbathing and lounging like they're on a holiday. Now, they were apart. However, this is not a holiday. This is not the time to go out and take risks and do things like that. I read articles of people in my generation, the millennials, saying, "Oh, who cares? Like there's all these cheap flights and I can take advantage of all these things and now's the time. And if I get sick, then I get sick and who cares?" What about when you get your friend sick? What about when you get your family sick? What about when they pass away because you made them sick because you made a stupid choice? Is a few weeks of making precautionary choices really worth risking the lives of people? And I think we know the answer to that is no. So I'm going to show you the Twitter response to how people are acting. A lot of people are extremely happy with Ford, my premier, for doing this. Good for you at Ford Nation for standing up for the people of Ontario. So as you can see here, uh, at the very bottom, $29.99 each for Lysol wipes. Now, a lot of places in response have been raising prices to different things. And there is a difference between being charged more by a supplier, which would be on the supplier's end, or a store making the conscious decision to raise a price because they know a product is in high demand right now and people will pay that price for it. Canadian Tire, big store here, was going this week before the pandemic. I've been posting this for weeks. Not a single response from Canadian Tire. Normal price is $8.49 a box. They marked up 1,150%. These are not N95 masks, so they're not even effective against viruses. Another Canadian Tire. Same thing we just talked about. Then there's things like people, so this picture, $24.99. It's $1 a roll. That's insane. Who's going to pay $1 a roll? Now, a lot of people probably would, unfortunately, because they're desperate. Personally, I don't see what the whole rush for the toilet paper was. There's newspaper, there are other things you can use, and that's not ideal, but there are more important things to try to make sure that your family's safe. Water, provisions, both provisions for your health and food provisions. Loblaws is selling chicken for $22 a kilogram. Foodland, $17.99 for a thing of hand sanitizer. $17.99. These stores that are doing this to price gouge, or suppliers that are doing this to price gouge, are absolutely disgusting, trying to take advantage of people in a vulnerable state. And I hope we remember the stores that are doing this. I hope the buyers show them that we remember what they did to us in our time of need. Often, when big companies are in trouble, governments will step in to make sure that the industry does not fail because the industry is important. But the people are important to that industry. And so it would be a nice reciprocal relationship to see kind of a give and take on both sides. And that's something that I am actually a very firm believer in. And by price gouging, they're taking. They're just trying to take as much as humanly possible. Now, ironically, we have my Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, as Jericho Green, another YouTuber I like, says. Canada is strongly opposed to U.S. stationing troops near their shared border. Donald Trump is looking to place soldiers near the border in response to the fears for the epidemic. Now, I'm going to give a quick few words before we get started. Now, if this is because he's worried about Canadian nationals coming in, there is, in my opinion, a very low percent chance that that would actually happen. So I hope that's not the reason, because Canadians, by and large, like our country. We like where we live, we like how things work. Now, taxes are a bit high in some cases. Often the middle class shares the burden. That's a different story, though. But we have things that help people. Our safety nets are much larger than they are in the US. So if the fear is that Canadians are coming in, then that's very silly, in my opinion. However, Trudeau is very pro illegal immigration. You know, he has, like our border guards, help people with their luggage through different crossings instead of arresting them for doing something illegal. So if the fear is that, illegal immigrants barely got through the US to get into Canada, and now they have a higher, or not a higher, but a larger choice of where they can re-enter. Now, I can see that as being a concern. And that just because of our lack of precautions and our lack of actual um, discipline and consequence for illegal immigration. The federal government says it is strongly opposed to the idea of sending American troops to the border to intercept illegal migrants as part of the U.S. response to the epidemic. So our Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, who I had the displeasure of hearing once give a lecture, and it was just awful. I'm not a fan of her. This is an entirely unnecessary step, which would view as damaging to our relationship, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland said this morning, following the first public report from Global News that the White House officials were thinking about stationing troops. She then paused and shrugged before continuing, at the end of the day, every country needs to take its own decisions, but ours is an important and valued partnership, and we are making clear Canada's position. That's fair. It's just a stupid position. A source with knowledge of the discussions told CBC News the White House is looking at placing 1,000 troops about 25 kilometers from the almost 9,000 kilometer long border and using remote sensors to look for irregular border crosses. Another source who spoke on the condition they not be named said that if the plan moves ahead, the deployed U.S. Department of Defense personnel wouldn't have any law enforcement powers. They'd be tasked with watching for people crossing between ports of entry who could be carrying the virus. They'd be tasked with watching. The U.S. government acknowledged Thursday that it's still weighing various options. Now, I understand that stationing troops is a very controversial move on the part of the president. However, I am I would rather take more precautions than less precautions personally. I am a very cautious person, not a huge risk taker. Now, when it comes to populations, I think that's the proper way to look at it. When it comes to your country, your home, the people, I think that's the way to look at it. And I think that the response from the Trudeau government has been so lackluster and has been so slow. Here's an example. It took until his own wife got sick for him to actually take the epidemic seriously. You know, even after his own wife got sick, he was still allowing people to cross illegally into the country. Now, the borders are much tighter now, and I appreciate that. It's just the speed at which it happened. And it's the same with his response to trying to help people here. Same with how the Democrats, they put forward that 1,200-page document that was trying to grab at different powers for themselves. There's actually a great Tim Pool video about it, and I'll put the link in the description. The Trudeau government tried to do something very similar, where they tried to give themselves unlimited taxation power, unlimited, without parliamentary approval, until 2021. That is so beyond disgusting that he would try to take advantage of the situation. So not only was he slow to the response, he tried to take advantage. This man is absolutely ill-equipped to be a leader of a country. And he has time and time again shown that he is nothing but a fool, a jester playing at the roles of a leader. A senior Trump administration official said the U.S. is considering new ways to assist border personnel working to limit unauthorized travel. Good. Protecting our border is a national security priority, and without proper precautions, which can only happen through orderly, lawful entry at the borders, the virus could pose greater risk to migrants, travelers, law enforcement personnel, healthcare professionals, and all Americans. Canada found out a few days ago. Freeland said it's up to Americans to explain their reasons for looking at putting troops at the border. What we have said is we really do not believe at all that there would be a public health justification for you to take this action. Of course, it's up for you to decide yourselves. Oh, that's touching. You know, we don't like this, but you can just do what you'd like anyway. Grow a pair. Tell them no. We are not okay with this. End of story. Full stop. I understand you're being deferential and you're trying to be respectful, but if you have values, show the values. I may not believe in their values and I may not align with my political ideology, but that doesn't mean I like to see people debase themselves and be, may I say, pussies about it. I'd rather people have a backbone when it comes to what they believe. So, an individual who was named Canada's ambassador to the US said the Canadians have been working on the file for a few days now. Initially, yes, it was something that we were surprised by, but as I say, we've been talking about it now with the Americans for a couple days. We're opposed to it because the message that it sends, and the message it sends is that there's something that needs to be fixed. And as I say, there isn't. Well, there is actually something that needs to be fixed. You need to take control of the Canadian border, and perhaps they won't need to take these precautions. Hillman, who has been serving as acting ambassador since David McNaughton stepped down last summer, described the conversation as ongoing and active. In his daily news conference, PM Trudeau said the unprotected border has benefited both countries for decades. That's the word though, the unprotected border. And that's what the issue is. Canada and the US have the longest unmilitarized border in the world. It is very much in both of our interests for it to remain that way. It's beneficial for our two countries, our two economies, tremendously. We feel that it needs to remain that way. Former US Ambassador Bruce Heyman, who served under Barack Obama, said he believes Trump is just preying on domestic fears about the spread of the epidemic. Heyman said he doesn't believe there's a threat associated with people trying to sneak out of Canada. Okay, and as I described earlier, here, I actually like this. Former U.S. diplomat Sarah Goldfeder, now a principal at Earnscliffe Strategy Group, sees it as more as a response to capacity, not politics. It's about operational capacity. It's not about increasing the amount of security at the northern border or militarizing the northern border in any way. I think they're more worried about the depletion of their current workforce due to the epidemic and isolation measures. We have to remember that a lot of the hotspots in the U.S. are along the northern border. That's very, very important to remember. Now, people on Twitter are obviously not as rational and not as willing for a discussion as you or I. So, Pudgy Nugget, what a lovely name. Why is that real Donald Trump considering putting troops at the US-Can border? Ain't no Canadian trying to sneak into your sick country with your healthcare system. You dumb, as you can all read it very clearly here. Troops on the US Canadian border because Trump thinks Canadians will be running away from universal health care at this moment. What a moron. Gonna go off on. Oh, I guess we just lost that one. Sorry, guys. Oh, Lord, here we go. Customs and Border Protection quietly requested 1,500 military personnel to assist with border enforcement, citing illegal migrants' potential to spread the infectious disease, per DHS doc leaked to me. 1,000 troops would go to the Canadian border. Trump calls himself a war president, but we never send our troops into combat without protective gear. Meanwhile, hospital workers are being forced to wear trash bags, use week-old masks, and ration ventilators as they work around the clock to save lives. It's a moral outrage. That's actually a different conversation, but I think it is a conversation that needs to be had. The healthcare workers of many countries are not being treated properly. And ironically, I'd like to say this as my final point. You know, in different times of need, countries will often send aid. Now, either out of a show of power, trying to strengthen a relationship, there are a multitude of reasons this could happen. At many times throughout history, China has needed assistance. And there was one in particular where they needed a lot of masks. We gave them millions. The world got together and just sent as much as we could. And now, in return, China is selling those masks at a price gouging rate, which, I mean, I'm not surprised, obviously, but I just think it's ironic. When will you learn a lesson? How many times do you need to be kicked in the teeth before you know it's time to get serious about something? And I think Trump was taking a very good stance when it comes to China. Personal opinion. Please let me know in the comments how you feel about any of the things we discussed today. Please keep yourself safe, keep your loved ones safe, and please practice safe, healthy social distancing, washing your hands, staying away from other people, and going out only when essential. Thank you all for watching. I'm Daniel's Inferno. Have a wonderful day.